He's a senior counsel who's made a name for himself in litigation and arbitration. He has a Master of Laws degree from Harvard Law School and currently serves on the Harvard Law School's Leadership Council of Asia. He left Clifford, one of the top law firms in the world, as global partner to start a boutique litigation firm called Audent Chambers. Harpreet Singh, welcome to Inconvenient Questions.
Morning, Biswa.
Well, let's cut to the chase, since we only have 20 minutes and lawyers are used to taking your time to make a case, make a point. So today you've got to make the point a lot faster and try and be intelligent.
Well, I knew I'd get a comment like that from you, and I'll try.
Yeah. You were close to the top position in Drew & Napier, which is one of the top and one of the oldest law firms, most established law firms in Singapore. And then you left as a senior counsel. You left Drew & Napier, and then you joined Clifford. Clifford is perhaps the largest, most established law firm in the world. And you moved up to be a global partner overseeing Singapore, and then you left Clifford, a choice position, and to start a boutique law firm called Audent Chambers. Yes, Audent Chambers, and so people are wondering what are you about. Some people are even suggesting that you're probably with the ISD.
Now the reasons for leaving Drew and Clifford Chance were different. Both were difficult decisions. Now, Drew, I started as a pupil. I thought I would retire there someday. I was, over time, doing well. The work was exciting. Drew had become a family. It still is in many ways. I had my 4 children while practicing in the firm. Now, however, I spent 20 years before I left. Towards the tail end of that, the last 2 or 3 years, I felt displaced in a certain way inside. Something just said to me, if I stay here doing this for the long term, I will stop growing. I felt I had, been stuck in a certain comfort zone. Clifford Chance, I spent 7 years there. It was another inspired choice, a great firm. I grew in many, many different ways. I was inspired by partners. I was inspired by processes, the quality of the work, the regional work. It was all getting exciting.
And it's truly global.
Absolutely.
Global firm, yeah.
Absolutely. And, you come in as a Singaporean partner. You are treated no differently from a European, an American, an English firm, an English partner. And it was great seeing legal practice at a different level. Now, the question, of course, is why did I feel I needed to leave with all of this going for me? I wanted to just free up time, free up space to think more, read more, speak more, engage in policy issues more, and also be in a position where I could be free to take on cases that might be a bit more difficult to take on when you are in a larger outfit. So it was a combination of just freeing up bandwidth and independence. And so Audent Chambers was set up. To be fair, I do not know where this journey is taking me.
But clearly, one of the things that stands out is, that you've been doing a lot more, for lack of a better word, human rights type of cases, like
public interest. I think
public interest
right.
Cases. Things like 377A. A gay couple,
the gay adoption case.
Gay adoption case.
That's right.
These are landmark cases, but they don't make money necessarily, but they are important for Singapore. Now, are those the kind of cases that you want to handle going forward?
Well, I think it'll be a mix of commercial cases and public interest cases. I think we will not take on, my colleagues and I, any case just for the sake of it. It's got to be a case that has got, in our view, legal merit, and also something that could move the needle in terms of the space for people to flourish in our country.
Okay.
Right.
So, the term pro bono was given a lot more dignity lately in the case of the Indonesian maid, Parti Liyani, right?
Yes.
The the defense counsel, Anil, did a fantastic job. Merchandani did a fantastic job, and he's become the man of the moment at this point in time. And
well justified.
Well justified. And the term pro bono, and the general association with pro bono has been, you just spend a few hours just going through the motions and handle it, right? But this chap, this young man, clearly went out of his way and did a fine job. Do you see yourself doing a lot more pro bono type of work?
I think, the team and I have been over the years, from the time I was a junior lawyer. I don't think the pro bono work will stop. I think it's also important to dispel this perception that pro bono is just something you dabble with at the side. I think it's a core part, in my view, of what it means to be a lawyer, returning to society and giving access to justice to people who might otherwise not have it. And so you take a pro bono case the way you would take every other commercial fee paying case. You give your very best. You don't consider whether or not you're being paid. Now, Audent Chambers, yes, we have been doing pro bono work. We've been doing low bono work. In other words, work that is where we feel the clients can pay, but because of the public interest involved, our rates are not commercial rates.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's often referred to these days as low bono.
That's right.
Right. I don't even know what bono means. What does bono mean?
Well, it's, sort of just free for the public good.
Okay. So, since we talked about the Indonesian, the case involving
Parti Liyani's case.
Parti Liyani, right? What do you think are the key lessons we learned from this?
Yeah, I think...
from a legal point of view.
Right. Key for me, I think, Biswa, is that we approach the case with some balance. All right. I think while errors were made both in the police's handling of the case and in the way the prosecution may have been conducted and in the decision in the court below.
The word error is a strong word.
Well, it's mistakes. I don't mean that, in any way other than mistakes were made and they were corrected in appeal. All right. I'm not prejudging anything at this with that comment. I think it's important to take a step back to realize that the police, prosecutors, and judges daily do great work. Now, and when mistakes are made, we must not overlook the very good work that they do on our behalf. At the same time, when mistakes are made, we have got to have the courage to ask the difficult, uncomfortable questions so that we can get to the root cause of the mistakes to make sure that there is, or the risks of any miscarriage of justice in future cases are minimized. So to me, that's the big thing. How rigorous is our process going to be reviewing the various errors or mistakes or oversights through the process in the Liyani case?
So what would be some of the oversights?
Right. I think if we start, say, with the police, the High Court's judgment, the judgment details, the errors in the way evidence was collected. They did not go to the ground until 5 weeks later to catalogue the items that were supposedly stolen. They did not take these items into custody for almost a year and a half.
And these facts came to light in the judgment by the Supreme Court judge. Yes.
Well, they were certainly highlighted there. I don't have the trial transcript below, so I can't say. But I think among the questions any review will have to ask is, did the police follow protocols in the evidence gathering in this case? If not, why not? Were there any systemic flaws? But also separately, are there other cases where the police have not been as rigorous or have made similar errors? And are the police going to review these other cases because there may be a potential miscarriage of justice in these other cases as well? And will that information be made available to defense counsel so as to give them an opportunity to reopen some of these cases? And then if you go down to the prosecutor's handling of the case, a decision was made. The public prosecutor, the Attorney General's chambers, has the discretion, they're given the power to charge people. Did they consider these flaws in the evidence gathering process, and how were Did they entertain any doubts about the Liu family's allegations? And if no doubts were entertained, given what the High Court judge has highlighted, shouldn't these doubts have been properly and more carefully evaluated before deciding to charge Ms. Liyani? These are just some of the issues. I think if you do ask these questions, you are at least in a position to identify if there are any systemic issues that need to be plugged. Are there unconscious biases in the organization, either in the police or in the prosecutor's handling of the case, for example?
Even if it's not a systemic issue, even if it's not, let's say it's a genuine error, genuine mistake, right?
There are lessons to be learned.
Yeah, there are lessons to be learned. It doesn't always have to be systemic.
No, absolutely. At the same time, one should not assume these were purely individual lapses. One should always keep an open mind to consider if there are deeper issues.
In fact, one would argue, and this discussion has been going on and on quite virulently in social media, especially. And what I found interesting was that good sense actually did surface every now and then to say let's be cautious about indicting the officers of the state,
Yeah.
because as you said, they've been generally doing a fine job. These are lapses. So let's not impute less than noble motives.
Well, yes.
I mean, prejudge. Let's not prejudge. And I think that's very, very important, because if there is a prejudgment and then you're looking for verification to a hypothesis, that won't be very fair on the officers.
No, absolutely, Viswa. I think, you should not prejudge. At the same time, you've got to be rigorous in the way you review the prosecutor's conduct to see if lines were crossed. Now, prosecutors, their duty is not to secure a conviction at all costs. They are, officers of the court. Their role is to make sure only the guilty are convicted. Now, we know now that there is a pending application before the court to seek permission of the Chief Justice to commence a disciplinary inquiry into whether or not the officers in question crossed the line. Now, that is an important part of the process.
Officers in question or the prosecutors?
The prosecutors.
Prosecutors. Yeah.
Right. I'm speaking about the DPPs involved in the case. And I think that process is important for both sides. I think for Ms. Liyani and her team, it's important to know that where they feel lines are crossed, there is a process to deal with it, and that the system is open. At the same time, for the prosecutors in question, it's important that if there is an explanation for the conduct, this is a process for them to be publicly vindicated.
Yes.
And there will be a reasoned judgment at the end of it. And so we should wait.
And this is actually, the way I see it, this is actually an opportunity to clear the air.
Absolutely. Now, you don't want to have this as a prosecutor hanging over your head like an albatross around your neck for the rest of your life. Here's a chance to be fully vindicated. And well, the process itself is painful, and I can well imagine it's a rather dark season for them at this point in time. The good thing is the process will be robust. It will be led by either a senior judge, a retired High Court judge, or a senior counsel.
It'll be a tribunal.
It will be, and it will report directly to the Chief Justice.
Right. Now, this is quite unusual, isn't it? Has this happened before? An application such as this to the Supreme Court?
Yes, the Legal Profession Act provides for it. There have been cases where applications have been made. I am not aware of applications that have gone past, just the initial complaint stage against involving DPPs.
So this, if the Chief Justice decides to proceed with this and accept the application, this would be a landmark event.
Well, I wouldn't call it a landmark event. I think it will be an important part of the process. And I'm sure the allegations will be tested. They will be robustly, sort of investigated, and we will have a reasoned judgment from the tribunal. And the other thing to keep in mind, I think, is this. Let's just assume one scenario where the DPPs are found to have breached their ethical duty. Now, let's keep in mind that, in the heat of battle, mistakes are made. And whatever mistakes are made, we can learn from them. but it shouldn't define who they are, provided they are prepared to take a frank assessment of what went wrong and to learn from that. We all make mistakes, and but I don't think, in that sense, we should come down that hard unless you've got very, very clear and strong evidence that there was dishonesty involved, there were deliberate wrongdoing, notwithstanding they knew that she was innocent as far as the DVD charges go.
In fact, this is interesting, Harpreet, because when we did the IQ special on leadership, the discussion on leadership with a few people like Piyush Gupta and Mr. Lim Cheong Guan, former head of civil service, and a few others on the panel, this point came out because we were talking about leaders and people in positions of authority, actually stepping out to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, But it was also observed that for that culture of apologizing and acknowledging that I made a mistake publicly, there must also be a culture of forgiveness.
No,
if you feel that no matter what I say, if the ground will not forgive me, it's a very harsh environment, then I'm not going to be inclined to say I'm sorry.
No, that's absolutely right. And the good thing about this process is it is going to be an independent process, and it's not a purely internal process where the department reviews the conduct of its own officers.
Yeah. So we have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
I just want to get one or two thoughts that you have. If you have a chance to change, modify some of the things, processes or anything in the legal system in Singapore, the judicial system as well, what would that be?
Right. What I want to do is I want to take a step back, and I think the process itself is far more important than the actual changes. For any real change to take place in any country, Singapore or elsewhere, I think a few things are critical. One is you must never, ever stop asking the difficult and uncomfortable questions, publicly and internally. Now, the more probing and the more difficult and the more uncomfortable the questions, the greater the potential to bring about meaningful change. The second thing is, I think there is a lot to be said about the younger generation and the older generation, the old birds like you and I, collaborating for change. Right? I think each one of us brings something to the table. We are the younger and older generation, like I would say, two ends of a battery. Right? You join them and we could create, I think, what one writer called intergenerational sparks. So I think greater collaboration between the younger and the older ones is important. But I think third is the need for moral courage, for individuals in and out of the system to stand up and speak on issues that are important to them. Not quite concerned about the results. I think, I just want to end off with, remember Kill a Mockingbird, what Atticus Finch said to his daughter about courage at the end. I wanted to teach you what real courage is. Real courage is not a man walking around with a big gun. It's knowing that you are licked before you even go in, but going through and seeing through things in any event. So to me, change is, it's about standing up, it's about speaking up, and not being overly concerned about whether you're going to get the results in the short term. Every time you speak, you send out a certain ripple, and when someone else speaks, there's another ripple, and we do not know how the universe is going to join these ripples and bring about the change, but it's key to speak up. And that's where I will end off.
That's wonderful, and goes back to the point that for that to happen, we need a safer environment. We need to feel that the environment is a much safer environment, and we also need to feel that it's a more forgiving, tolerant environment.
Although even if that environment is not there, moral courage sometimes calls for stepping out.
I know.
And opening the space for others.
I agree, but that's harder. But I think it's not too big a wish.
We should never give up hope.
Yes, we shouldn't. Thank you very much
thank you for having me.
Inconvenient Questions. Thank you.
And keep your inconvenient questions coming.
You bet.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.